What is up, guys? DZ here, and today I wanted to talk about Lunalight Black Sheep popping up in Zoodiacs in YCS Atlanta. So this combo is playing in the background. Basically, if you open Rat and you can get to the standard Zoodiac combo, you end up getting 2 extra draws and ending with basically the same field. I'm doing it here just with the one card so you can see what I'm drawing, but all it requires is to get to Rat. You can even normal summon it. It's not like you have to summon it with Invoker or Barrage or whatever. And you can see here what you end up doing is using the Emerald and a Broadbull with no materials for Fusion Substitute to summon Norden and then keep going. And it's really cool. I believe only one person topped with it that I'll talk about in a second. But this is something that popped up in the OCG for a second in Shaddolls and Fluffles, but not really in the TCG and definitely not in pure Zoodiacs. So the first place it popped up at YCS Atlanta was in round 11 with Jeff Jones' feature match. He opened the combo games 1 and 3 and used it to completely dominate his opponent. It was just 2 of the most unbreakable boards that Zoodiacs can create, in part because he got 2 extra draws, so he was able to dig for traps and Max C. That's really where it first popped up, and then the other place it popped up was in Max Reynolds' top 32 deck list from Voltage Games, and I'll link the profile in the description. But it makes sense that Max would be playing it and Jeff would be playing it because they obviously are dating, so they're going to share ideas, and I believe Alex Van Sant was also playing it. So pretty much Voltage Games was really on this when other people weren't. And like I said, it did pop up in the OCG in decks that were already playing Polymerization, but I couldn't find anyone playing the Fusion Substitute to do this in pure Zoodiacs. And that's part of the appeal, right? You're only playing 2 extra cards in your deck, neither of which are bricks unless you draw them both together, which, I mean, it isn't statistically impossible to draw 2 one-ofs in your opening hand, but it's pretty improbable. And if you draw either one of them just by themselves, it's totally fine. Then you just get the Broadbull search for whatever else you want, probably a Whiptail. But it's better, obviously, not to draw them so that you don't have to factor them into your hand. But it's still cool that Max was able to top with it. I really do advise watching the deck profile. He talks about a lot of his card choices. He did play some other techs as well. But yeah, so we saw it in those 2 spots, and people started really talking about it. And I think a lot of people regretted not playing it. I mean, the comparison to make is between Sheep and the Bearman card that people originally were playing in Zoodiacs when they first got announced. And if you don't know, the Bearman combo is basically if you open a way to get to Rat without using your normal summon, you can end on a Trident and then the rank 8 Beast Warrior guy that draws you 3 cards. But the problem, well, there were 2 problems. First of all, the bear took your normal summon, which meant that if you just like had the Rat or had a Tenki, it wasn't good enough. You needed the Barrage or a Terratop into Invoker. But second of all, it meant that you didn't end with an Emerald, and Emerald is really important. I mean, it's not a situation where you can say like, oh, maybe you like have a way to get Zoodiac combo in the grave, because like I just said, you can't have the Rat normal summoned if you're doing the bear combo. So you would have to somehow get the combo into the grave, an alternative method, which is just, once again, very improbable. So this bear had an issue where you had to normal summon it, and also you didn't end with an Emerald. And even though it created some really cool looking boards because you had like 3 extra cards in your hand and you made a rank 8 in a rank 4 deck, it wasn't that good, and that's why we don't really see a lot of people playing it. It was also only really good going first, where the Lunalight is actually pretty good going second, because, I mean, if they stop your play, or if they, like, debury you, then you can just keep going on the next turn if you start your turn with a couple Exceed monsters. I mean, if you go through the YCS Atlanta feature matches, there's a lot of times where someone summons some Exceed monsters and they get deburied on like the 2nd or 3rd turn, and they pass with like 3 Exceed monsters that all have like no materials. And in that scenario, on the following turn, I would definitely say that searching the Lunalight and then getting Fusion Substitute and going for a Norden play would definitely be really good. Not only that, though, I mean, I really like the interaction with Norden in a lot of different decks. Now, Max wasn't playing Instant Fusion. I would assume Jeff wasn't either. But if you're already playing Instant Fusion in Zoodiacs, which a lot of people are, I mean, we've seen it pop up at 1 copy, 2 copy usually. Not really 3 copies. That's pretty unlikely. But 1 and 2 copies has shown up a ton of times now, and just because people, it's good because Broadbull is a generic rank 4, but if you're already playing the instant fusion for Norden, you might as well just add in the Lunalight and fusion substitute, because you're just giving your deck a better opening play. You're not even sacrificing any extra deck space because you're already playing Norden. I think that's where it really shines, and I didn't ask Max why he decided to not play instant fusion. I'm assuming he just didn't have enough space for it now that he added 2 cards to his deck, but it seems like a good idea. But the other thing I wanted to mention is that part of the reason that this combo is so cool is because it shows that Zoodiac Broadbull can be added to so many different strategies. And I'll put a couple cards on the screen right now, just some Beast Warriors that you can search out. But there's just like a ton of stuff you can do with it, and we've seen it pop up a couple times. Metal Foes have been playing to search the Dragoons card as a low scale, and that's kind of neat. And like I've seen Cosmos use it to search before Impel King Bear as like a scale, and that's kind of cool as well because it does stuff with level 7s. But there's just like a lot of untapped potential here that Broadbull can search, because it's a lot better than Tenki, because Tenki you would have to play multiple copies of if you wanted to see it, but then you don't want to brick it, and also you would see it when you've already searched your 1 Beast Warrior. But there's a ton of decks that just play or could play a random Beast Warrior. Did you ever think that Broadbull could search Sea Lancer? Like, I never would have thought of that. So you can this kind of shows why the Zoodiac engine is so splashable, because you can play it in so many different decks that really benefit from just searching a monster for free, and it really accelerates the gameplay of a lot of different strategies that would normally be a lot slower. We've seen it pop up even in my own channel, where we're using Zoodiac Barrage to pop like Subterra Nemesis Archer, destroying it in a much faster way than probably Subterras are supposed to trigger Archer. But I don't know, I think the potential for Broadbull is good, because let's be realistic here. Broadbull isn't getting banned on the next ban list. I can almost guarantee that. That would be like the weirdest hit I've probably ever heard of. I would say there's probably 5 cards ahead of that. There's Terratop, there's Barrage, there's Rat itself. There's a whole bunch of cards that would get hit before Broadbull would. That would be the wildest hit out of left field that I've ever heard in my life. But that means that if Zoodiacs get hit, down the line, Broadbull can just be used as a generic rank 4 that searches Beast Warriors. And we've seen this come up before. Gear X is sort of a good example, except that it takes 2 machines, so you have to be playing a lot of machines to actually make that. But a better example is like King of the Feral Imps, because King of the Feral Imps has been used a ton of different times over the course of history to search stuff that probably shouldn't have been able to be searched. If you're thinking like, we searched like Kage to Kage, or Masked Chameleon was really popular in early like Luster Pendulum based decks, just because you wanted like a tuner to search that you can make Ignister with. And we saw, I was playing it in Subterras to grab the Umastrix or whatever, but it's not hard to see how many times King of the Feral Imps has been used in decks that only play 1 or 2 reptile monsters. And for that same reason, I would say that Broadbull is going to be a good rank 4 just in general going forward if you're looking to pick up generic stuff, because you can then just play 1 random Beast Warrior that your deck would benefit from, but that you don't want to ever play multiple copies of, because you only want it you only want it to see it in your hand when you can search it. And from a deck building standpoint, I like cards like that. I can't say too much if I am in love with Zoodiacs in general, but the ability to search a Beast Warrior or a random type of a card, I think is cool. And Broadbull's pretty balanced as well, just because it doesn't have a lot of attack points if you're not playing it in Zoodiacs, which means that you're sacrificing something, unlike with King of the Feral Imps and Gear Gigant, where you have like a 2,000 attack monster, or it's more than 2,000 attack, it's 23 or whatever. But you're sacrificing that, but you're getting a wider selection of cards. I would say, in general, that Beast Warriors are better than Reptiles. I don't think anyone's really arguing against that. And once again, Gear Gigant, kind of hard to say, because you're already playing machines to make it, and there's a lot of good machines, but it's not like generic. You can't instant fusion and make a Gear Gigant last time I checked as a 1 card. I guess you could have DNA surgery on the field or whatever. But I just want to make this video to talk about how Lunalight Black Sheep is a really cool example of people playing one-ofs to search with Broadbull in ways that haven't been tried before, at least on a competitive scale, especially in America. I don't think anyone is topped with these cards in America, so shout out to Max for being the first one to do that. But also, I wanted to look at how Broadbull could have a greater impact on the game as a whole years from now. I think there'll never be a time when you just can't make rank 4s. I guess Link Summoning is restricting them, right? So maybe I'm wrong here. But I don't think there'll ever be a time where you just can't make rank 4s. They're not just going to ban all of them, which means that years later, if there's a Beast Warrior deck that comes out, or a Beast Warrior card that comes out, long after we've forgotten about Zoodiacs and they've gone from the meta, everything's limited or whatever, Broadbull can still be relevant because it won't be banned. And I think that resource cards like that toolbox different themes are really cool and good for the game, like I said, from a deck building standpoint, so you don't have to play like Tenki awkwardly, if that makes sense. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this discussion, and I'll see you later. Bye.